Hi everyone, my name is Sylvia and welcome to my channel, and an extra special welcome to all of my subscribers. Thank you so much if you're subscribing to this channel, and if you want a additional elite welcome like I just did, please subscribe by clicking the button below. Today I'm covering a more recent case as the murderer was just sentenced a few weeks ago. Rideshare apps have helped a lot of people stay safe by lowering the amount of drunk driving accidents by giving drunk people a way to access a sober person to drive them home. However, getting into a car with a stranger comes with its fair share of risks. I'm talking about Samantha Josephson, who was faced with the worst case scenario after she got into a stranger's car because she mistaked it for her Uber. From her death, different regulations have been passed across the country to help protect people who are just trying to get home safely after a night of drinking. I'm sickened yet curious. Let's get into it. Samantha Josephson was a senior at the University of South Carolina, and she liked to be called Sammy by her friends. She was studying political science and wanted to go into law. She really was the definition of having both beauty and brains. One of her professors even called her the next Amal Clooney. She was at the top of her class and had even gotten a full ride scholarship to Drexel University, where she planned on attending after graduating. Samantha loved to travel and had studied abroad in Spain, which is actually where I studied abroad when I was in college. She was a very bright girl and she was graduating in just a few months at the time of her death. She had a very bright future in front of her until that was all taken from her by a selfish and evil individual. On March 29th, 2019, Sammy joined her friends for a night of drinking at the Five Points District in Columbia, South Carolina, which is where her university was. Around 2 a.m., she decided to leave the Bird Dog bar alone, and she called an Uber from her phone. Sammy was last seen on surveillance footage at 2:09 a.m. She was standing outside of this bar on her phone. There were several cars going past that were, Ubers picking up all the people that were getting ready to leave. It's 2 a.m., so I think basically every bar would be closing around this time. In the surveillance footage, you can see a black Chevy Impala pull up in front of Samantha, and she gets into the car. Sammy got into this car thinking that it was her Uber driver, but it wasn't. She got into the wrong car and unknowingly was in the car with a dangerous person. And I actually had a friend who was a Lyft driver, so we had the sticker on his car, and anytime we were sitting in a parking lot, somebody would come up and try to get into his car, and we'd be like, "Get out!" And I've heard of a lot of people doing this, just like going up to an Uber and sitting down without making sure that it's theirs. And it's really scary when you think about it because it's actually really dangerous. This was the last time that this college student was seen alive. The next morning, Sammy's roommates noticed that she didn't return home, and around 1 p.m. they decided to call the police and file a missing persons report. And sadly, it was just hours later that turkey hunters in a field 60 miles away would discover her body. Sammy's body had been dumped in New Zion, which is a rural, remote area. The road she was found on was actually a one-way dirt road that not many cars went down. So the police knew that whoever went down this road that night was likely the person who was dumping her body. This, coupled with the surveillance footage of her getting into the black Chevy Impala, made this a fast-moving investigation. Police began canvassing the Columbia area for a car matching the description of the one that Sammy got into. And late at night, around 3 a.m. on March 30th, this is less than 48 hours after she was taken, the police pulled over Nathaniel Rowland. He was literally driving the same car through this exact same 5 Points area where Sammy was last seen when the police caught him. This was a canine unit that pulled Nathaniel over, and he got out of the car and tried to run. Luckily, they tackled him very quickly and they were able to arrest him and look inside his car. Inside his car, they found Sammy's phone, cleaning products, and lots of blood. Because what he did to Sammy was barbaric. Sammy's autopsy report showed that she had been stabbed over 120 times. The coroner actually lost count at 120. That's how many times that she had been stabbed. The coroner couldn't get an exact number because there were puncture wounds literally all over her body, her face, her neck, her torso, her legs, and even her feet and hands. One of the stab wounds had even gone all the way through her hand during what the police assumed was her trying to defend herself. One of the stab wounds had also gone through her skull. The coroner estimated that she had died from her blood loss around 10 to 20 minutes into the attack. The human body contains 4 liters of blood, and just 1.3 tablespoons was what Sammy's body had left. That's less than a shot glass full of blood. The police deduced that Sammy had gotten into Nathaniel's car thinking that it was her Uber. And once she realized that it wasn't, Nathaniel activated the car's child lock system, which then trapped her in the vehicle with him. Something that the coroner noticed was that these stab wounds were very small, and they were in sets of 2, and they were surrounded by a contusion or a bruise. And this actually led them to deduce that Sammy had been stabbed with a multi-tool. This guy didn't even grab a knife. He used a multi-tool, which is a small instrument used to repair things. They will have like pliers and like sometimes a file and like a corkscrew, kind of like a Swiss Army knife. This is not a very sharp instrument, so he had to use a lot of force to puncture her body, let alone to puncture her body over 120 times. They were saying that by the time this assault was done, he had to have been like dripping in sweat and panting like he had just run a mile.
Part like this, now it's a single bladed weapon. So that's one of the things that was confusing me at the autopsy. Was I thought there must be 2 weapons, because there was the parallel blade ones and then there were the single ones. So I thought it's unusual to have 2 weapons. But now I think it's explained to my satisfaction that this is the knife in this conformation would make the parallel ones that I saw.
Sammy was found in a very remote area, and if it weren't for the hunters, they think that maybe they wouldn't have even found her body. And something really sad that they found in the autopsy report as well is that her face had scrapes on it. So whoever had dumped her in this area was just dragging her face down along the ground, like fucking Linus with his blanket, instead of putting in the effort to carry her. And in addition to her phone and blood found in Nathaniel's car, the police searched behind his girlfriend's house and found more evidence. This included cleaning supplies, a bloody 2-bladed knife which had Sam's blood on it, and they also found her blood on a sock and a bandana, both of which belonged to Nathaniel. Additionally, Sammy's DNA was collected from underneath Nathaniel's fingernails. His nasty ass didn't even wash his hands good enough, I guess, in the past 48 hours. His girlfriend agreed to testify against him. She saw him cleaning blood out of his car and off of these tools. She asked him what it was, and he told her to mind her business. Sammy's body was found in that remote area with very few residents, and one of the former residents of this exact spot was Nathaniel. Other cameras in the 5 Points district actually captured Nathaniel driving through the area multiple times, circling the block, circling Sammy, like a shark would stalk its prey. Nathaniel was later seen at an ATM trying to access Sammy's bank account. This actually matches up with his MO because he was also a suspect in an assault and robbery on another woman a few months earlier. This robbery was people who jumped into a woman's car while she was driving, and they beat her up, robbed her, and then they actually had her drive them to her house where they continued to take her things, and they ended up stealing thousands of dollars worth of electronics. Despite this mountain of evidence, Nathaniel's excuse was that he had fallen asleep at a house party that night and he had woken up without his keys, so somebody must have stolen his keys to go commit this crime, and obviously that is a lie. The prosecution had tons of both circumstantial and direct evidence against Nathaniel. The judge made a statement to Nathaniel saying that, quote, "All roads led back to you. Every speck of evidence led back to you," end quote. And the judge sentenced him to life in prison for the murder of Samantha Josephson. Sammy's family did not want her death to be meaningless, and they fought tirelessly to spread awareness for rideshare safety and to pass legislations to help keep people safe when they get into these rideshares. They started the What's My Name Foundation, which tries to spread the habit of asking the rideshare driver, "What's my name?" before you get into their car. On the Uber or Lyft app, they should have your profile pulled up when they're picking you up, so they will be able to tell you their name. You shouldn't say, "Oh, is this Uber for Sylvia?" because then they can just say yes. You should ask them the open-ended question, "What's my name?" and then they can just answer Sylvia. Sammy's death caused sweeping legislations across the country for rideshare safety, as well as efforts to educate young people on the dangers that can be associated with Uber and Lyft. This case is actually the reason why there's now those illuminated Uber and Lyft signs in the fronts of cars. I don't know if you guys have noticed those. I don't think they're in every state. This is also why there's Uber and Lyft stickers in both the fronts and backs of Uber vehicles. Just continuing with the rideshare safety, it's really important to have an understanding of what logo is for each different type of car. There was a meme going around that was like, "I never learned the breeds of cars, so I never know which one is my Uber." And sorry to be like a Debbie Downer, but it is really important to understand like the basics of cars and their makes and models. You know, just memorizing the logos of the most popular cars like Honda, Toyota, Hyundai, Kia, and Nissan. It's important for any time. You know, if you witness an accident, you can tell the police what the make and model of that car was, or at least give them a few clues to where they can figure it out. States from New Jersey to South Carolina have passed regulations that Uber and Lyft vehicles must meet so that they are easier identified by drunk people at night. In July 2020, the U.S. House of Representatives unanimously passed Sammy's Law. This requires Uber and Lyft vehicles to have front license plates that are clearly visible and illuminated windshield signs along with scannable quick response codes on the sides. It's like those QR codes, so you can scan it and it'll light up green if it's your car. Samantha Josephson was a girl with a very bright future. She wanted to be a human rights lawyer and to make the world a better place. And her innocent yet fatal mistake has woken people up to the dangers of rideshare services. Nathaniel Rowland will be spending the rest of his life in a prison cell, just slightly bigger than the car that he murdered Samantha in. This is just a heartbreaking case. It's a mistake that many people could easily make. It's so scary to see her standing there in her going out clothes on the phone and then, you know, just jumping into the car that pulls up right in front of her, just completely unaware that that is going to be the future crime scene of her death. I just can't even imagine the terror that she felt when she realized that this wasn't her rideshare, that she was in the car with a stranger and she was now trapped. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe down below. I will be coming out with some more videos. I apologize that this one was a little bit late. I don't know if you heard about the historical flooding that occurred in New York City. That is where I live, and yes, my apartment was affected. We had a foot of water in our basement, and our landlord's not doing anything to help with it. So I've been a little bit wrapped up with cleaning up after the flood, but I am back, and I'm hopefully uploading videos on a schedule again. Comment below any cases that you'd like me to cover in the future. Thank you so much, and I hope that you have a wonderful day and stay safe. Thank you.